I am a historical researcher. My job is to find the truth in the ruins of the past. My name is Daniel, a PhD student specializing in American labor history. My focus is on the lives of coal miners in the Appalachian region in the early 20th century, a topic filled with stories of hardship, courage, and catastrophic tragedies. That focus led me to Black Creek Hollow in West Virginia, or rather what was left of it. Black Creek Hollow was once a bustling coal town, but on a fateful day in 1923, a methane explosion caused mine number 5 to collapse, burying 14 men and 1 young boy alive. After the disaster, the mine was sealed and the town slowly died with it. Now it's just a ghost town, a scar on the mountainside, being slowly swallowed by the forest. I arrived on an autumn afternoon. The air was heavy with a funereal silence. Decaying wooden houses stood still like tombstones. The company store was now just a rickety frame, and the black man-made slag heap stood like a monument to a bygone era. I made camp not far from the town, intending to stay for a few days to take photographs and document the site. That evening by the campfire, I sat reading my research materials. I read about the miners who had died, and I read about the boy. His name was Timothy, 14 years old, working as a trapper boy, a job that meant sitting in the dark all day to open and close ventilation doors inside the mine. The records noted that he was a cheerful kid, and to combat the loneliness and the dark, he often whistled. He always whistled the same tune, the old folk song, "Oh, my darling Clementine." I sat there amidst the silence of a dead place, reading about a dead boy, and the cheerful melody of that song felt chillingly out of place. I had no idea that the melody itself was still lingering there. As night fell, the ghost town seemed to come alive, not with life, but with memories. The wind whistling through the empty window frame sounded like whispers. The banging of rusted tin roofs sounded like footsteps. I tried to dismiss the growing unease, telling myself it was just the imagination of a city boy alone in the wilderness. I was sitting by the fire, jotting down my thoughts when I heard it. A whistle, very faint, carried on the wind, a simple, familiar melody. It was Clementine. I immediately shot to my feet, my heart pounding. I listened. The whistling came again, then fell silent. It seemed to be coming from the direction of the mine, where the entrance had been sealed with a thick concrete wall. It's just the wind, I told myself. The wind blowing through a crack in the rock, making a sound like a whistle. A logical explanation, but I didn't really believe it. The next night it returned, clearer this time, closer. The melody of Clementine was whistled perfectly, not a single note out of place, over and over. And mixed with it were other sounds. Sounds I could only hear when I concentrated intensely. The faint clinking of metal on rock, like a distant pickaxe. A muffled cough. The steady dripping of water in a confined space. The academic calm within me began to crumble, replaced by a primal fear. I no longer felt like I was studying history. I felt as if I was eavesdropping on it as it happened. On the third night, my scientific curiosity won out over my fear. I had to have proof. I had to know if these sounds were real or if my own mind was creating them. I took my high-sensitivity audio recorder, a professional device that could capture the faintest of sounds. I went to the sealed entrance of mine number 5. The concrete wall was cold and silent. There was only a small ventilation hole covered by a rusted iron grate. I placed my best microphone as close to the vent as I could, then ran a long cable back to my tent. I sat in my tent, zipped it shut, and put on my headphones. I pressed record. An hour passed in silence. Only the sound of the wind hissing through the vent, a steady, monotonous sound. I started to feel foolish. I was about to give up, about to take off the headphones. And then, It began. The whistling of Clementine. Through the headphones, it was impossibly clear and close, as if the boy Timothy was standing right on the other side of that concrete wall. That cheerful melody in this context became incredibly tragic and terrifying. It lasted for about 5 minutes, then it stopped abruptly. A dead silence fell. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a deafening roar in my headphones, a sound so loud it physically hurt my ears. It was the sound of a massive explosion from deep within the earth, followed by the groan of collapsing rock and the splintering of support timbers. I ripped the headphones from my ears, but outside my tent everything was perfectly silent. There was no noise. That horrifying sound existed only on the recording, in the memory of the mine. My hands trembling, I slowly put the headphones back on. The sound of the collapse had faded, replaced by a chaos of muffled screams, shouts, and desperate cries. And then, one voice cut through it all. A voice very close to the microphone, the voice of a young boy, panicked and choked with coal dust. "Help! Get us out, it's so dark!" I don't remember screaming. I just remember tearing the cables apart, grabbing my car keys and running. I abandoned almost all of my camping and research equipment. I just drove, driving non-stop through the night, the scream of the boy Timothy echoing in my head. A few days later, back in the safety of my city apartment, I finally dared to face it. The recording, the only proof of my sanity or my madness. I plugged the recorder into the high-end sound system in my office. I took a deep breath, and I pressed play. And all I heard was the hiss of static, hours of static. There was no whistling, no sound of pickaxes, no explosion, and certainly no screams. The recording was completely blank. I sat there, speechless. I was the only one who had heard it. I was in the right place at the right time, and somehow I had tuned into the frequency of a tragedy that had been frozen in time for a century.